Hello again, Kevin Crouch here with the South Metro Weather, and I do want to talk about another weather FAQ that you guys have had, especially recently. What makes this high pressure so persistent in the summer in North Texas? We see it all the time. We're always warm and dry, and we've especially seen it this season. We've been warm and dry for about a month now. So why is it that high pressure is so dominant this season? And it seems like it's just always that way, especially this season and back in 1980, for example, in 2011, when we had these long stretches of really hot weather. So let's talk about that a little bit. Most of it has to do, in fact, really just about all of it, has to do with the jet stream. So the jet stream moves across the country from west to east, and that generally drives the storm systems that move through. And you hear us talk about ridges and troughs, and this is what we're talking about here. So high pressure, just like we have in our area right now, and most of the time in summer, you have this clockwise rotation, and you can see that the jet stream goes over it like this. That is your ridge. So that allows this warm air to move in, and high pressure is sinking air. You need rising air to build those storm clouds. Well, when you have sinking air, that subsidence, that's going to push any storms down and not allow for the lift that would create rain. So that is why you have dry, hot conditions in a high pressure system. As opposed to on the other side, you have a low pressure system. You have this jet stream that dips below that, and you have that counterclockwise rotation here. Well, low pressure makes lift, it goes the opposite direction, so it moves up. That's what creates your thunderstorms, and that we call a trough because it's going down. It's kind of a dip. So you have your ridge here above the high pressure, and then your trough down below the low pressure. And yes, you have northern air, that cooler air that generally comes in with that low pressure system, and especially when you're on the back side of it, when that moves through, you're getting that northern push here. So that's kind of how things work in terms of the pressure systems. Now, why is it that the high pressure is so dominant and so strong? Well, we got to go into space for that. Now, yes, I understand that the Earth traditionally is not this close to the sun, right? We're not right here, but I'm just using this for illustration purposes, so hang with me here. And the Earth, you can see it here, it's rotating, but it's not perfectly up and down here. It's tilted a little bit, especially in the seasons. So in the summer, it's going to be tilted about, I think it's 23-degree tilt either way. So 23 degrees towards the sun in terms of the upper hemisphere. So the northern hemisphere, we have summer, but you notice the southern hemisphere is a little further away. That's why they have winter during this time. And you can see here's the United States rotating around, and when it comes back around, it's closer to the sun, right? So what happens is that when you're closer to the sun, it's going to be warmer. That strengthens the warm air from the equator there, and that pushes that jet stream northward. It strengthens the warm air that works with those high pressure systems, and that's why we're so warm and dry in the summer, and why it's harder to get storm systems to come through. They're all riding north of us, right? They all ride that ridge north of us and go around, and so we don't see quite as much going on. Now, as opposed to the winter, when it tilts the other way, so then we are further away from the sun here, so you notice that the southern hemisphere is closer, so that's why they have summer when we have winter. And when that happens, that allows the jet stream to move further south, the warm air to move further south, the cool air to move further south, and that's why we get cooler temperatures in the winter. So let's go back to our jet stream here, and in the La Nina year, I want to talk about La Nina and El Nino because this can influence this as well. La Nina, you pull that jet stream northward. So what does that mean? Warmer, drier conditions for our area. And we've been seeing that this summer, but it's usually in the winters where you really see that change. So we don't get the jet stream as far south. The storms are more likely to miss us to the north, and that warm air does persist a little bit more. And then you have El Nino, where the opposite happens, where it pulls the jet stream further down south. Now, we're doing this, of course, in August, I wish it was October, in August of 2013. And we're looking at El Nino possibly being a little stronger this year, which means it could go all the way down towards the Rio Grande here in Texas and across the Gulf of Mexico. So we may have an even more dramatic drop of that jet stream. So we're looking at a really persistent high pressure system right now. Not only are we starting at the time of this filming, it's August 10th right now, so we're starting to see more intrusive cold fronts, right? We're starting to see see these pattern changes, well, El Nino is going to pull this jet stream downward and help us even more to make eventually those pattern changes that we need, those longer term pattern changes, more permanent, that we need to cool off in the fall and the winter. I want to go back to what we talked about in the El Nino segment we did, where El Nino in north central Texas, you do see that greatest impact in late winter and fall, and wetter, cooler conditions are expected. And for this year, there's a 90% chance of El Nino persisting into late fall and winter, so we're pretty sure it's going to happen. There's a 20% chance, though, of a moderate to strong intensity of El Nino conditions, rivaling 1997 and 1998 and 2015 to 2016. Now, you might look at that and go, well, if it's going to be wetter and cooler and it's possibly going to be a stronger El Nino, does that mean records? Now, looking back in history, when you look at the El Nino segment we did recently, we didn't exactly have records in terms of temperatures, no big temperature drops or anything, no records, no record lows those years. But we did see record rain accumulation by the time we got into the later fall months. So it could very well be a situation where we get more rain than usual, which is absolutely welcome this year, but doesn't look like it is anything that's going to necessarily give us record low temperatures, not like the big ice storm we had back in 2021. That was actually a pretty mild winter there. When you got outside of that 2 weeks, we were in the 60s and 70s most of the time. And I was telling somebody yesterday, if anything, it might mean that we have longer stretches of those cooler temperatures because the jet stream from the south, the warmer air won't be intruding so much. So looks like it's not going to be how cold we get, but how long we stay cooler for that El Nino pattern. But we'll wait and see. We won't really know how it's going to unfold until it does, but things look good for maybe getting some of this rain that we're looking at behind me that looks oh so fantastic right now, especially right in the middle of this drought. But time will tell. But we'll take every little bit that we can get. So stay tuned for more Weather FAQ segments. I would appreciate it if you would give your feedback and let me know what other questions you would like to have answered on these segments. And stay tuned to South Metro Weather, because we'll be watching to see the different signs that we're getting that this pattern is getting ready to set in and finally kick this persistent high pressure out of the way. I hope this helped you understand things. Again, I look forward to reading your comments, and I will look forward to seeing you next time for the next Weather FAQ segment.